What's up everybody, this is Memory Code. In this video, I'm going to show you how I took this piece of a sample, added a few other pieces and chopped it up like this. And added drums and a bass line to make the finished beat. Let's get into it. Alright, so for this sample I wanted to use warp markers to chop it to pads on a new MIDI channel. So my first step is just turning on warp. And then anywhere that I put a warp marker is going to end up being its own chop on a pad in the drum rack. So yeah, usually when I'm looking for samples, I like to find one main piece that I'm going to use to build the beat around. And then I'll find a few other pieces that work well with that to help develop the pattern. So yeah, after listening to the whole song, I found this one section right here that I wanted to use for my main chop. And so yeah, I'll just double click and put a warp marker right there. And then actually I wanted to break that up into 3 separate chops. So I'll put another warp marker here and another one here. That way I can a little bit more easily manipulate that little phrase right there and lock it to the BPM a little bit better. So yeah, that was my first piece that I wanted. And then I found this other one right here in the beginning that went well with it. So I'll put a warp marker right there. And then I wanted to get this piece right here. And then right here. These two separate pieces. And then just to make a little turnaround at the end of the pattern, I wanted to get this. So I wanted to break that up into 2 separate chops also. And yeah, before I slice it to a new MIDI track, I just want to delete this warp marker right here. When you turn on warp in Ableton, it automatically puts a warp marker right at the beginning of the clip, but I don't want that to be a chop on a pad. So I'm going to just double click and delete it. Then I'll go to here and right click and go to set 1.1.1 here, and then drag this over to meet it. And that way this first slice that I wanted will end up being the first slice in my drum rack. And once I have all that set up how I want it, I'll just go to the clip and right click and go to slice to new MIDI track. And then here you can select how you want to create the slices, and I want to go by warp marker, but you can also go by transients or by any of these subdivisions. And then you can pick a slicing preset, and Ableton comes with a lot of really good built-in presets, but you can also make a custom preset, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go with the Memory Code Sample Chops 2. And I have a video that I made that shows how to make your own custom slicing preset, which I have a link in the description for that if you want to check that out. And once you have all that set up, you can just click OK. And it puts it on a new MIDI track, and it also puts in a MIDI clip with notes just based on the order of the warp markers in the audio clip. But I'm going to delete that since I want to play in my own pattern. And then I can go in and check out the chops, and I can adjust the start and end time and also the fade in and the fade out if I need to. So yeah, first I'll just turn down the volume. And then check out what I got. So yeah, I just brought in the end time on that one. And I brought back the start time a little bit just to get a little bit of that glissando going into it. And then I'll just fade it out by using this dial right here. Alright, that one's good. That one's good.
If
that one's pretty good for now. I'll just fade it out a little bit. I'll fade this one out a little bit. Brought in the end time a lot on that one, and I'll fade it a little bit. Alright, so here's kind of what I was thinking of as my main chop. Bring in the end time a little bit on that one and fade it. And then this one, I need to bring out the end time a little bit. All right, that's pretty good. And then here's kind of what I was thinking of for just the main pattern. And yeah, once I do those edits, I like to just record in the pattern. So I'll just make sure the channel is armed by clicking right there. And then I'll just hit record and do a few passes. All right, that was pretty good. Now I'll just listen through and check out what I got. And if anything ended up being too sloppy, I can just adjust the notes down here in the MIDI grid. So yeah, I'll just listen through and see what I got. Alright, that was pretty good. I feel like some of the notes were a little late around here. So yeah, I feel like this note right here is a little bit late. I'm going to just move it up a little bit and check it out. Nice, that's better. And then also these last two ones are a little bit late. Nice. So then let me just check out the end time on that last pad. This one right here. Yeah, I'm gonna move the start time up a little bit on that. So yeah, that's pretty good. I'm gonna leave that how it is for now, but a lot of times when I'm working on other parts of the beat, something might jump out at me that I need to change. So if that ever happens, all I need to do is go back in and move the notes in the MIDI grid. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it like that, and then the next thing I wanted to do is just layer in one other piece of the sample just to fill out the pattern a little bit. And I did that just on an audio track as opposed to doing it in the drum rack up there. So yeah, I just did it right here, and it's this little horn stab right here. And I got that from the same song that I sampled just for the main sample. And I got it from that same little turnaround piece that I used. And I just used that last little cut of it, and I threw some delay on there. I EQ'd out the lows a little bit. For delay, I used the Ableton Echo, which I really like. And then I put isotope vinyl on there and just turned up the warp a little bit just to help it blend in with the sample and kind of help layer it in. And then I used utility with the bass mono set at 250, so everything from 250 and below will be in mono. And that's just a good way to help keep the sides of your mix a little bit more clean and just keep your mix a little bit more clean in general. And then I have the glue compressor, just controlling the volume a little bit, and then the limiter just in case any peaks are coming through after that glue compressor, which it doesn't really look like anything is. But yeah, and I only threw this little horn stab in every other measure just to switch up the pattern a little bit and add a little bit of extra flavor. So here's what that sounds like now in context. So yeah, once I'm done with the sample arrangement and any layering, then I like to add a bass line. For this beat, I used Trillion, which is a really good VST for electric and acoustic basses. And for this, I just used this hip hop pick sustain preset that I liked, and then I just processed it a little bit. I put isotope vinyl on there. Usually I wouldn't recommend using vinyl on bass sounds because it kind of like washes out the low end a little bit. But for this beat, I liked that. And a lot of times too, it just depends on the year setting that you use. These earlier ones pretty much cut out all of the low end. And these two, 1960 and 1970, add like a little bit of a resonant bump in the low mids, which is usually kind of weird on basses, but 2000 ended up being pretty good. And I turned the warp up kind of a lot just to detune it, just to make it feel like a little bit more natural. And then I put Redux on there also, which is the Ableton Bit Crusher. So that's just downsampling the bass and adding a little bit of fuzz. And when you hear that in context though, you can't really hear that fuzz. It just kind of like helps it blend in and become part of like the soup of the beat. And yeah, for the notes, I wanted to keep it really simple and just kind of like create a little bit of a foundation to support the drums and the sample. So I was thinking of the bass line for this almost more like a kick drum. And for the actual note selections, I went with B, which is the root of this track. And then every other measure, I went down to the F sharp, which is the fifth. So yeah, those are two really good note choices for bass lines, the root and the fifth. And yeah, for the drums, I kept it really simple also. I just chopped up a break and just put together a really simple 1-2 boom bap pattern. And yeah, one other thing that I want to do before I cut out is on the sample, especially on this pad down here, there's kind of a harsh frequency in the high mids. So I'm going to just go to the EQ for just this pad and turn it on. And you can kind of see even in that spectrum right there, you can see that note kind of poking up. So I'll just turn on a filter point and bump it up to really amplify that. I'll narrow that Q and then just search around. You can kind of hear that getting harsh and wanting to feed back. So if I just pull that down a little bit, it'll just make the beat a little bit warmer. And this is one reason why I really like to use drum racks like this, because you can process each chop separately as opposed to using like slice mode or something like Serato sample. So yeah, this kind of has that same harsh frequency in there too. So I'll just turn on the EQ here and just pull that down a little bit also. And then same thing up here. So yeah, that kind of just warms up the beat a little bit and gets rid of some of that harshness. And then one other thing, when I was coming up with that sample arrangement, I used a concept known as the ABAC formula. And I have another video that I did about that also, which you can check out. I got a link in the description for that. But real quick, it's just each letter of that formula ends up getting applied to a measure. So the first measure is the A, it's the original idea. And then the next measure is the B, a variation, just to switch it up a little bit. Then you go to the A again, and then for the last measure, you bring in the C idea just to add a different layer of variation. So yeah, with all of that happening, here's what everything sounds like together. So yeah, that's how I flip that sample, and I'll play the full finished beat in the outro. Alright, thanks a lot for checking out the video. I hope it was helpful. Hit me in the comments if you have any questions. If you want any more information about funk and soul drum breaks and drum theory, check out my book, The Breakbeat Bible. I got a link in the description for that. I'm available for one-on-one music production and beat making lessons, and also stay tuned for the launch of my Patreon page. I'll put a link in the description once that's up. Thanks a lot for checking this out. Peace and much love.
Memory code.